has been a pleasure to meet so many of you tonight and put a face to the stories I see and the things that you told me. I'm going to be dividing the meeting tonight into 3 parts, and some of you have an agenda. It's going to loosely follow that agenda, but that actually wasn't supposed to be part of the paper you got. But the first part of the meeting is I'm going to be presenting you all with a fair bit of information about what we're dealing with Stonewall, who they are, and the various things that are part of the totality of the issue we have going on. The second part is going to be where you guys are going to stand up, ask your questions, tell your stories. The third part of the meeting, which I consider to be the most important part of the meeting, is where we're going to organize ourselves, where we're going to take action, where hopefully we move from putting things on Facebook to actually taking action to start solving the issues. So that's kind of where things are going to go tonight. I'm going to try to move it along as fast as I can with trying to honor each of you by letting you have a chance to speak, at least as many of you as we can fit into the time that we have. Some rules for tonight. I would like everybody to be considerate of the person who's talking and not interrupting the person who may or may not be at the microphone or standing up and talking. Let them say what they have to say. If you don't agree with it, that's okay too. If you do agree with it, that's great, but let's just let everybody have a fair chance to say what they need to say. Other than that, we're just going to try to move through. There's some people that I want to thank tonight. Some people who have been instrumental in helping put this meeting together and help me manage the Facebook group and have really gone above and beyond to try to make things happen here. I was hoping Mayor Jensen would be here tonight. Yes. He is? Where is he? Where's he hiding? I wanted to say that I met Christy Spieler and I met with Mayor Jensen and the law director for Avon, and they've been very helpful and very supportive in all the efforts that we've taken so far to get things done here. I believe the city is just as upset by the conditions at Resthaven as the rest of us are. So thank you very much, Mayor Jensen. I also do want to thank Mary Ellen Gunther and Chrissy Spieler, who are up here kind of they're kind of a robin to my Batman. I mean, they've been amazing in helping me out. It's a job way bigger than one person, so I'm very grateful to them. I also want to thank Mr. Anthony Pecora, who came tonight. He is an attorney, and I'll let him go into all of his credentials as he comes up. He very graciously agreed to come here tonight and answer as many questions as he can, understanding it's not going to be possible to have the answers to everything that we want to know, but I truly appreciate him coming in tonight and taking the time to do this. And a little bit of housekeeping to talk about before I move on. I want to thank the Knights of Columbus for renting us the hall tonight. Much appreciated, because it was on very short notice for them, because we kind of got a little bigger than I thought we would get. So the original venue, being the community center in Avon, was not going to be big enough for us. So luckily this hall was available. Mary Ellen and I have taken on a pretty significant financial responsibility for paying for this hall. So if anybody is willing to donate towards that, we would be eternally grateful. There is a container up front to donate, or you could give it to any one of us or anyone from the hall themselves. It would be very much appreciated. Moving on to the first part of the meeting. I don't have a podium, so bear with me as I go through this. Why are we all here tonight?
We're mad. We're really mad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Here's where I'm going to speak for all of you and say, we're here tonight because this community wants to send a very clear message to Stonewall that we demand that Resthaven be fixed. We want dignity restored for our loved ones. No more empty promises, no more broken promises, no more lies, and no quick fixes. No more. It's not acceptable. So, now that I think we all have a little bit of understanding of who Stonewall is, the company that owns Resthaven. They're not nice people.
How did the meeting go with Stonewall?
I'm going to get into that a little bit further where it fits in because it does fit in to this. Let me fill you in on a little bit of background about Stonewall. They own 322 cemeteries across the country and in Puerto Rico. They own 90 funeral homes. 13 of their cemeteries are here in Ohio. I am hard-pressed in all the research that I've done, and I've done a lot, to find a Stonewall-owned cemetery that does not have significant maintenance issues. It is a widespread problem in their cemeteries. It is a nationwide problem in their cemeteries. I have found multiple, in more than a dozen, Facebook groups just like ours in cemeteries around the country that are trying to do the exact same thing that we are trying to do. It's disturbing, and I'm not sure what's going on with that, but it's really disturbing when you take the time to look at what's going on with the other cemeteries. I will tell you that Resthaven, unfortunately, appears to be among the top 3 in worst case scenarios. It's among the top 3 in their cemeteries as far as conditions, bad conditions go. Resthaven, unfortunately, has that dubious distinction of being among the worst. Stonewall is a limited partnership, meaning that I know very little about this, so I'm only giving you information that's been given to me. It means that their executives are personally responsible for the debt load that they incur. They're currently in the process of trying to become a C Corp. If they become a corporation, and if they're successful at that, it takes the debt load. They are $300 million in debt by some estimates.
Good.
It will take the burden off the executives and put it on the corporation, and the chances of bankruptcy skyrocket at that point, which is going to be the first question that you all ask of our attorney. So he is going to try to answer that, or some questions about that.
Before you move on, can you give us those numbers again of how many they have and where they're going?
Estimates are between $200 and $300 million in debt. I'm going to read you a story from Reuters here in a few minutes that'll give you a lot of perspective. Obviously, their financial condition is cause for great concern. This article from Reuters, if you'll bear with me, I am going to, I chose parts of it to highlight for you so that we could get through this as quickly as possible. This is dated May 17, 2019 from Reuters. It's Direct Lenders Buy to Resurrect Cemetery Owners Stonewall. The rising debt load at U.S. cemetery operator Stonewall Partners LP has helped bring it to death's door, but specialized lending funds are clamoring to refinance the company's borrowings, according to sources familiar with talks. In the wake of the financial crisis, when interest rates sank to historic lows, Stonewall borrowed over $300 million to acquire cemeteries and funeral parlors. The strategy added to the debt care company to a generation of companies now saddled with debt that has limited their growth prospects. This borrowing binge led the Federal Reserve to warn in its most recent financial stability report that business debt over the past decade has grown faster than the overall economy. In the event of an economic downturn, their high debt levels leave this company vulnerable to collapse. Stoneware has not turned a profit since 2008 and has missed deadlines to report financial results and has seen its share price fall from over $30 in 2015 to less than $3 today. The debt care company hired an investment bank, Houlihan Lokey, to help it refinance its credit line as its existing lenders grew skittish about its deteriorating financial condition. Discussions to refinance Stoneware's nearly $200 million credit line are now in advanced stages, with a deal expected to close as soon as next month, cautioning that negotiations could still fall apart. I'm skipping a great deal of this article that isn't relevant. Buried by debt, Stoneware has eliminated 15% of its workforce since 2008, leaving it with a total headcount of 2,630 full-time workers as of December 2018. As company spokespersons confirmed, 3 former employee accounts said that under prior management, Stoneware put in place hiring freezes and a furlough. Some of Stoneware's sales force departed as it changed its compensation structure and cut a popular contest offering trips to the Caribbean for top performers, according to 2 ex-employees. These efforts to conserve cash have so far done very little to revive Stoneware. Earlier this year, Moody's downgraded Stoneware's debt deep into junk territory, indicating that investors may not receive all of their money back. Our rating reflects our concern that they will not be able to continue to make interest and principal payments, said Edmund DeForest of Moody's Investor Service. Stoneware's $175 million bond due in June of 2021, rated 8 notches into junk by Moody's, now features a yield to maturity of 14.3%, nearly double its coupon of 7.875, reflecting creditors' increasing skittishness about the prospect of being repaid. A $35 million loan from its largest equity holder earlier this year has helped Stoneware stay alive. New leadership, the current one is the 3rd chief executive in the last 18 months, is now attempting to change its corporate structure. The company plans to convert into a C corporation as soon as this summer, after a vote from its shareholders. From its current form as a master limited partnership, a structure which entails large quarterly payouts to the company's investors. It ceased making the expected distributions to its limited partners in 2017, effectively closing off its access to public equity markets and hobbling its ability to acquire new cemeteries and grow its business. Moody's still predicts it will be cash flow negative this year. And this is where this gets interesting. I'm not going to elaborate. Take it for what it's worth. The outlook for the $20 billion death care industry is actually bright, thanks to the large and wealthy generation of baby boomers who are aging and will soon require the services that Stoneware provides. Meeting that growing demand requires a cemetery to acquire more property. Stoneware did just that after the financial crisis, borrowing heavily to buy smaller cemeteries from local entrepreneurs. It then added its own operating system and costly perks, such as health benefits for employees and corporate cars and credit cards for sales staff. But the company failed to implement changes at new properties with consistency, making it difficult to tell which acquisitions were performing well and which were not. Stoneware tried to figure out integration as they went. Interest costs tied up any cash the company could have used to buy new plots, limiting their ability to expand. As Stoneware saw its shares slide, stocks in its competitor, Service Corporation International, which is actually the largest company, more than tripled. That company last year reported record profits and has maintained a debt level at around 4 times earnings. And I'll allow you to take whatever you want from that. My only question, where's the money?
Right.
Exactly. So, now that you know a little bit about who we're dealing with and the reality, because that's the reality of the situation. This company has hundreds of cemeteries in conditions similar to Resthaven.
What do we do?
I'm sorry, I didn't what he said. So now we get into my meeting with Mr. Omar. The meeting was arranged, we had a lunch meeting, and the only word I can use to describe his attitude was conciliatory. Yep, the cemetery's a mess. It's a horrible mess. It's disgusting. It's embarrassing. We can't sell a plot there. He doesn't deny it. He actually put words in my mouth about what it was. But he would not move past that into, what are we going to do about it? But we're going to fix this. Those words did not happen. So basically what he was telling me is, yep, that's the way it is. We hired an engineering firm. He did tell me that, but they've been saying that for months and months. And I'm going to guess longer than that. They've hired an engineering firm to come help them develop a plan.
In our lifetime, or?
Yeah, well, Mr. Jim Ford, who is the president of Stonewall, was hoping that that plan, that engineering report, he said they'd have it May 2nd. I'm thinking it's in the May 20s.
Right.
There is no.
Yeah, but did he say 2019? You assume 2019. He's probably talking May 2nd, 2020.
I'm going to make a really big personal revelation for you guys here, and this is going to be one of the reasons I am hearing impaired. So when somebody talks from that distance, I can't hear you. So if someone could relay maybe what someone's trying to say.
She's saying in 2019, is he planning on May 1st of this year, or May 1st of
Next year,
or 2021?
All right,
assume this year.
right. And to be honest, they have promised and broken promise about the drainage issues for more than 5 years. More than 5 years. What's the chances that we're going to see an engineering report?
We're not.
None.
Looks like they're doing some kind of surveying with the signs and the little red flags down the cemetery, but that's all you see.
Yep.
And don't even know what those mean.
I agree.
They have only been on this cemetery for 5 years, right?
This is a very interesting part of my meeting with Jack Omer. I specifically asked him, how long has Stonewall owned Resthaven? Because nobody seems to be able to come up with an actual date that Stonewall bought Resthaven. He said, I have no idea.
Go figure.
He said, I'll have to get back to you on that. I still haven't, he hasn't got
Well,
back.
we keep hearing that,
Why would they?
this passed on from ownership to ownership. And this has been an ongoing problem for 20 years. I'm not saying this company is any better, but it seems like you have to, understand after someone buys a plot or anything, you gotta put 10% aside.
Yes.
Okay?
That's the next part.
And the interest, they can take the interest. So the more lots that you sell, the more money they're making.
Right. This is
But this has
actually
been
the
an
next part of
ongoing
what I'm going to talk about, is how that endowment care fund
Right.
works.
This has been an ongoing problem. Maybe they keep swapping the place around, and the more people that buy later on into it, increases their profit.
Yes.
And
You're
still
correct.
more money going to the cemetery to fix it. But it's been going on for 20 years.
Yep.
So I'm not saying this company's not guilty, but they've been guilty all along and no one's done nothing about it.
But one thing that in my next part of this is, what is the endowment care trust fund? Because that's everybody's big question. We're paying perpetual care. Where's the money? The money is let me explain a little bit about, and I do have a handout I didn't have enough to print them for everybody, but if anybody wants specific information about the endowment care fund, I do have a printout on that. Since 1970, cemetery associations and or companies who own cemeteries have been required to deposit at least 10% of their gross proceeds from the sale of interment rights into a separate endowment fund. Some cemeteries call it a perpetual care fund. The law was amended in 1999 to require that the funds be placed into a trust, so it's now called an endowment care trust fund. The cemetery may only withdraw dividends and interest from this account. The dividend and interest money can only be used to manage and administer the trust and for the maintenance of the cemetery. Principal and capital gains must remain in the trust fund. They cannot touch that money. So the latest publicly available figures from 2017 show that there is $473,423.10 in the endowment care fund for Resthaven. That is money that Stonewall cannot touch. They paid into it $19,713.69 into that endowment care trust fund in 2017. They reported sales of $173,044.91. The only money that they're allowed to use out of that trust fund, and here's the caveat, to maintain cemeteries, but also to manage and administer the trust fund. So they can put all the money into that and nothing into maintenance. But the only money out of that endowment trust fund that they are allowed to spend or have access even to spend on maintenance is the 10%, the interest and dividends off of that money. So the $473,000 is not available to fix the problems at Resthaven.
That don't make no sense.
It's in a trust fund, so it's in an endowment. They're supposed to be putting 10% of anything they sell for the year into that endowment fund, and then using the proceeds of the endowment fund, the interest and the dividends, and put that towards maintenance funds.
Well, apparently they're not using that,
Where is it?
right?
Exactly. And honestly, I mean, think about that. Is that the only money you're going to spend on maintenance? There has to be, they're not spending, obviously. Obviously, they're not spending money on maintenance, and they're not spending it in any of their cemeteries.
Yeah.
So, and that's the information about the endowment fund. This is the handout that's available. If anybody wants to know, it's from the Ohio Department of Commerce, and it explains exactly what can and can't be done with that endowment fund.
Where can we get that?
$453,000, if you were getting 10% of $45,000 a year, that's absolutely nothing to maintain anything. These
That's not
places
even
are
a salary of a super-
these places are being bought and sold. They're being bought low, and what will happen is Stonewall will break them all up and sell them all up at a tight, needy little profit, even though they say they're losing money. When you said that they spent $19,000, they put $19,000 in the endowment this year, and their sales were $171. That's over 10% that I guess they're required. My point I'm making to you guys is, understand $453,000 still isn't going to fix that cemetery.
No, and I'm gonna take a little bit of a liberty. There are no official estimates of what it's going to cost to fix Resthaven. The only estimate that I have heard, and it is from a completely unofficial source, is it could potentially be in the millions of dollars to fix Resthaven.
And Stonewall
It
can
shouldn't have got that far.
Exactly.
Yep.
Shouldn't have got that far.
It was never like that
It's
in the
been like that
beginning.
for years.
It was never like that in the beginning when my
No.
parents bought
It used to be quite a beautiful place. It used to be quite a beautiful place. It really did. It really did.
Can they, I mean, I hate to say this, can they sell it, like, to a developer?
Well, what I'm going to do, if you guys will bear with me, let me get through the information. I think those are questions that the attorney is here is going to be better able to answer than I am. So I'm going to quickly move through the rest of what I have so that you guys can start asking your questions and we can move forward. Currently, The only legislation available to us as a remedy is no remedy at all. House Bill 168 just passed. It will go, I believe, in a few more days. It becomes rule of law. The only part of House Bill 168 that applies to Resthaven is the section that says, owners shall provide reasonable maintenance of cemetery property and of all lots, graves, mausoleums, scattering grounds, and columbaria in the cemetery based on the type and size of the cemetery, topographic limitation, and contractual commitments with customers. It does not have language that spells out what is reasonable maintenance of the cemetery. So if they cut the grass, are they in compliance?
Yeah.
It's not listed in House Bill 168. House Bill 168 also does not have any language in it that would offer consequences for failure to comply, which basically renders it useless. A lot of people have worked very hard on House Bill 168. That was a lot of hard work by a lot of people. Is Mr. Tim Ford here? No. He was actually someone who testified in front of the Ohio Senate, and he was going to try to make it here tonight about House Bill 168. Representative Stein, who is the representative for the Avon area, was instrumental in getting House Bill 168 passed. It's a great bill. It has a lot in it, but not a lot that specifically applies to Resthaven. A lot of it applies to publicly owned cemeteries, which Resthaven is not. I also have with me, and if anybody's interested in seeing, I have the totality of the bill printed out if anybody wants to see House Bill 168 and wants to take a look at it.
Tim Ford apologizes that he can't be here, but he is watching.
Okay. Thank you for everything you did with House Bill 168, Tim. It's greatly appreciated. Tim Ford is an asset to the entire fight in the state of Ohio. He's been fighting this battle far longer than we have with cemeteries down in southern Ohio. He's been a great asset and has given me lots of direction as far as where to go and who to talk to. He is a man who has dedicated his life. This is what he has spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours fighting this battle for these cemeteries. I did want to read Representative Stein's office did send me information to be given to the group tonight. He and Senator Manning were not able to be here tonight because they do have hearings in Columbus. He's reached out to the Department of Commerce. As we all know, Nancy King has her complaint before the Ohio Cemetery Dispute Resolution Committee coming up again on June 13th. He's pledged that either he or his representative will be there at that meeting with Nancy. That's a huge help. That's a huge help. Senator Manning did have a representative there at the meeting we had in March who was there with Nancy at that meeting as well. Their help is greatly appreciated. Moving forward, there are two conversations that his office is engaging in. We've had extensive discussions with his office about this, with help from Tim Ford, as to one of the downfalls of the Ohio Dispute Resolution Committee is it has no legal authority. They can only recommend that a cemetery take action. And you and I both know we can recommend all we want is not going to happen. So, what Representative Stein's office is looking into is, does a recommendation from the Dispute Commission carry any weight? The answer to that is no. Does Stoneware act on it alone, or do they require further suggestions? Yes. Will House Bill 168 reasonable maintenance standards have any effect or influence?
Nope.
Is further action required? Can it be addressed in rule, or does it require legislation? It's going to require legislation. If legislation is needed to empower the commission with punitive authority, give the commission teeth. There's other things they want to put in that package. They have reached out to various interested parties to see if they're looking at anything specific. He's looking into measures adopted by other states to gain a baseline of what seems acceptable. So that's a step forward. And part of what we're going to do tonight is come up with a plan to actively seek out the help of our state representatives in this way. Getting into the Ohio Department of Commerce Cemetery Dispute Resolution Committee. A lot of you already know what that is. It was established and vested with the authority to assist in resolving complaints against registered cemeteries using mediation, conciliation, and persuasion. Doesn't work. They have no legal authority. They're made up of 9 members, and I'm going to get real interesting with this. They're made up of 9 members. 7 of those members are cemetery operators. 2 are members of the public who have no interest in the death care industry. The commission members are not paid, and they're appointed by the governor. So, read what you want into that, but they police themselves. There's one member of the commission who has to step out of the room every time anything coming up with Resthaven comes before the commission because his cemetery is owned by Stonewall. They police themselves.
What's Lisa now?
When you send your complaint to this commission, they receive your complaint. It is passed along to the cemetery operator, who's given 30 days to reply to your complaint. And if it's not resolved and you don't get the action you want, then it's brought before the commission. And I am going to actively encourage every single one of you to fill out the form and send it into the state. As much as we don't like this commission, imagine piling them with 100 complaints about Stonewall that they cannot ignore.
Let's do it!
Let's take
So
a
I
filter.
have the forms here tonight to pass out. I will turn them in for you if you want to fill them tonight and hand them to me. But one of the goals of this group and one of the action parts of this group is let's flood them with complaints about Stonewall. Because Stonewall has to appear and defend themselves on each and every one of them. Now, I've laid out a foundation of information for you. We all are on the same page. We all know what we're dealing with moving forward as to what this company is, what the financial situation is, what the cemetery situation is. I would like to bring Mr. Pecora up and ask that maybe between both of us we can answer some of your questions. I do want to remind you, please only speak one at a time. And I'm sure he can hear you a lot better than I can, and I apologize. But I do want, before we do that, I want you to know the next part of the meeting after this question and answer session is of vital importance. It is the portion of this meeting where we are all going to put our heads together and come up with solutions. I have some, but it's open to all of you to come up with solutions to this problem. How are we, as a community, going to take on Stonewall? So, Mr. Pecora, if you wouldn't mind, and I think if you have a question, let's kind of maybe start this part of the room and we'll move over this way, and he can call on you one at a time. So, anybody in this section have a question?
First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Anthony Pecora. I'm a law partner with the law firm of O'Toole, McLaughlin, Dooley, Pecora. We're in Sheffield Village, right on the Avon border. I have the pleasure of representing Mary Smelser, who's here in our audience as well. She has some very horrific circumstances dealing with Resthaven and Stonewall, which would make you cringe if you heard it. Almost as if it were in the bizarre world, in the Twilight Zone, But her experience of actually burying her loved one, her husband Robert, this past August, was this, I still shake my head as to what happened. So not only her own individual experiences with Stonewall, with Resthaven, and horrific, but also since then, of course, she's experiencing the same flooding, the same, my husband's headstone grave markers underwater. I can't visit my husband without putting plastic bags on my feet. Same with her daughter, Brenda, as well. And when we lose a loved one and we inter them into a cemetery, that's our individual monument to our loved one. That's where we go to visit, where we go to pay our respects, whether it's once a year or every week. We should have a right to do so without being covered with mud, without having our headstones crushed or cracked, or just the disrespect of track marks and wheel marks going through over your loved one's graves. We actually have pictures of Mary's husband's funeral, where they were laying him to rest, where Resthaven had its backhoe, its stabilizer, on other people's grave markers. And everything, of course, was covered with mud. And that was in August. That was before the rain set. It was muddy then. So, I asked Mary before tonight whether or not to share that with you, and she certainly was gracious enough to allow that to happen. A couple things with Stonewall. First of all, is there a raise of hand? Who has contracts to inter themselves or their loved ones with Stonewall? Okay, quite a bit of you. So your contract, which is very minuscule and front and back and very fine print, says all kinds of things. Some things that you will not like. By way of example, your contract with Stonewall, you're spending tens of thousands of dollars to inter yourself or your loved one, your aunt, your uncle, your spouse, your children. It actually requires you to go through the dispute process in Columbus. So the commission, which is Katie discussed, is basically governed by individuals in the death business, the death care business. But before you assert any cause of action, whether it's through arbitration or through a complaint filed with the Common Pleas Court, your contract requires you to go to Columbus and try to arbitrate or mediate this issue. And our recommendation, my suggestion is that you should do that before you do anything. Even though it might be an absolute waste of time, but like Katie said, if you flood the commission with your complaints, Stonewall is going to have to individually defend those. And that's a good thing. I don't know what the resolution, what the outcome will be once you do that. We have no, please bear with me, we don't know what that's going to be. But if you don't like the result, if you don't resolve your differences with Stonewall, there are options for each one of you. For those who have contracts, you have breach of contract claims. You also have negligence claims. You have that privity of contract where you're telling Stonewall, I'll pay you that $10,000, whatever it is that you're charging me to bury my loved one. But you are to do certain things, including making sure that my grave site prepared when we come to lay our dear one to rest, as well as to maintain that area, to maintain those premises. And if you fail to do so, you have a breach of contract claim against Stonewall. You also may have a negligence claim or negligent upkeep of the premises as well. For those who do not have contracts with Stonewall, you're not left in the cold. You are foreseeable third-party beneficiaries of someone's contract. It's foreseeable that you'll go visit your aunt, your uncle, your grandparent. So Stonewall still has an obligation to you as well. So when I was talking to Katie and I was talking to some other people about options, you have, in my mind, 4 options. One is to do nothing at all, just hope that that Stonewall goes away and someone else comes in and fixes the situation. Number two, you could go through the dispute process that your contract requires you to go through and then live with the results. Number three is you do that and you file lawsuits, whether or not it's individually or collectively. Or number four, you could even do a class action lawsuit against Stonewall. And there is some, discussion about why a class action would not be necessarily a good thing, but through our research, our firm handles a number of class action lawsuits. You could actually certify the issue of negligence or certify the issue of breach of contract, and then have actual individual little trials as it pertains to your individual damages, how you've been damaged. Those are options for you. The fifth option, actually, when you think about the fifth option, would be to collectively force Stonewall to go to Columbus and, through that dispute process, come up with some sort of resolution, which I don't. We're talking probably millions of dollars to fix the drainage. That is another option as well. So there are options. We're looking into them. I'm individually looking on Mary's behalf on how to handle Stonewall. They don't seem to be very responsive to our requests. It's no surprise there. Even though we have pictures of and photographs of this bizarre behavior on behalf of their employees. Just an absolute mess when Mary saw her husband was buried. So, do you have any questions, I guess, from this side? Yes, sir.
This one's off of Facebook Live from Tim 4. He asked, can we verify for-profit cemeteries are legal in Ohio? And if so, what laws apply to them?
That's a good question. I'm under the understanding. I believe that they are legal in the state of Ohio. As it pertains to regulations, they are governed by 4767 of the Ohio Revised Code. And Katie discussed reasonable maintenance and the lack of a real firm definition of reasonable maintenance. But the statute does give us some guidance. So 476709, reasonable maintenance, tells us that the commission, the Cemetery Dispute Resolution Commission, shall consider the following: the size of the cemetery, the type of the cemetery, the extent and use of available financial resources, the contractual obligations for the care and maintenance of the owner or persons responsible for the registered cemetery, the standard of maintenance of one or more similarly situated cemeteries. So, if I'm not familiar with the size of Resthaven, but the commission would look at similar sized cemeteries and how they're maintaining their cemeteries. Suggested maintenance guidelines are set forth in the Ohio Revised Code, and then the other provisions in the Ohio Revised Code, including 476706. So there is some guidance as to what reasonable maintenance is. It's loose. But that doesn't preclude Resthaven from having, and Stonewall from having obligations under contract. The contract itself, again, that you barely read it. You have to blow it up to read it. It does reference its obligations under 4667 or 4667. So there are obligations under that. Also, in contract, if you have a breach of contract, the base measure of damages would be how much your loved one put in and paid for the extra service provided by Resthaven and First Stonewall. So, yes, sir.
If Bill 168 is not worth the paper it's written on, and so many people spend so much time making a bill, it's pretty well useless. It doesn't help us because it's a private cemetery, and there's no reason for them to even address it because there's no fine, there's no. What's to stop them as we're sending in our letters or whatever to join a company and file bankruptcy and we'd still get nothing?
Well, Okay, so bankruptcy, I'm not a bankruptcy attorney, so I'm not going to opine too much about bankruptcy, but Chrysler filed for bankruptcy, GM filed for bankruptcy. It depends on what type of bankruptcy they're filing. If it's a total liquidation, that's one issue. If it's a restructure, that's another. So we don't know, number one, we don't know if Stonewall is going to file for bankruptcy. They may. But if they do, I imagine they want to stay in business, so I'm guessing that would be a restructure where they're retaining their assets and their ownership of most of their properties.
But at the same token, there's nothing you could force them to do. I mean, yeah, you could file appeals and all this, and it might cost them a little bit of money. But this 168 bill that they said did so much doesn't have no teeth. So they can go on and doing what they're doing, and nothing can stop them.
Well, to that point, I haven't read the bill in total. I'm not sure if I agree with you that there's nothing that can be done. I think that the Ohio Revised Code provides some guidance. Again, it's reasonable maintenance, but that doesn't preclude Resthaven and Stonewall from being sued. And I'm not advocating you all filing lawsuits, but they know that people can file lawsuits after you go through that process. After you send the letters and go through the alternative dispute process, you are permitted to file a lawsuit. Yes, sir.
Well, if we fill out these complaints that we've given tonight, that's still just one voice.
1 times 100, but yes.
Yeah, but it's still one voice to deal with one
Yes.
individual. Wouldn't it be better to go with a class action?
Exactly. Right.
So that we're working with a number of people, because in bankruptcy, the one that has the biggest voice is the biggest part.
Right, so, class actions require certain things. Numerosity, which is one. You certainly have numerosity. I think there's some cases say that more than 10 meets that threshold. Ascertainability, which is an issue of can we ascertain who the class members would be? Well, yes, it would be people, individuals who have contracts with Stonewall. It would be one class. Another class, subclass, would be third-party beneficiaries to those contracts. Then there's things called typicality and commonality. Are your claims typical and common in nature? Well, yes, the claims what I hear would be the lack of drainage and the flooding of the premises and your inability to actually go to your loved one's gravesite, and also the destruction of the headstones. How many people have had broken or cracked headstones here? That's a lot. Wow. That's significant. So those are the typical claims and the common claims. So then there's other issues under class action that can actually, I think, it's a viable situation. The only issue with class action is your individual damages. Do you have individual damages? You do. You do have individual damages. That doesn't preclude class actions. In class action work, a court of common pleas, would essentially certify a certain issue, and that would be the certification of a breach of contract or certification of negligence in the relationship with Stonewall. Then I believe there would be individualized, each one of you would have your little mini trials as it pertains to individual damages. So it is a possibility, and we're going to be looking into that. Whether or not people want to be involved with it, that's up to you. I'm going to leave my information for my card for anyone who wants it. We're not going to thrust ourselves on anybody. I have one client right now who's my client, but in total, we can handle class actions if it can. So, yes, sir.
Another question from Facebook Live that Jennifer Moore asked, and I think I'm kind of surmising this question. And maybe some people in the room have a question about this. Can those who have bought from Stonewall get their money back through a breach?
Well, I mean, that's a good question. That's the measure of damages. Now, whether or not a jury or a judge believes that that's appropriate, it's up to the trier of fact. So it is a possible baseline for damages and breach of contract cause of action, complaint. So yes, ma'am, I need to.
Yeah, I have a question about contracts because my situation is slightly different. So my mother passed away 25 years ago.
Okay.
My father bought a double plot and at the time had not purchased any markers. Financially just couldn't afford it. It was just his
Sure.
income. 23 years went by and I actually went forward. He is still alive. But I went forward and paid for a marker. Why he didn't want to do it still, I really don't know. Where's the contract then?
Well, he would have had a contract.
And I have a contract
So you have a contract.
for the marker
For the
because I
markers.
paid for it.
So my understanding is Stonewall requires the gray markers be purchased through.
Owners. However, they told me that at first because I had called and specifically asked, and I spoke to a woman, and I wish I knew her name, but I don't. I spoke to a woman, and the first time she told me, I'm sorry, we can't do anything. If you can get your dad to agree and come with you, then we can do that. And I could not get my dad to come with me. A year later, I tried again. I called and just asked if policy had been changed or anything like that, and they actually told me that they revisited a time frame in when somebody was buried and if a marker had been placed, and they actually allowed me to purchase a marker.
Okay. Well, you have, since you have a contract with Stonewall, I think you would be in that group of people who has a contractual relationship where there would be breach. So I think you would be, I believe you would be.
I had a similar problem. My dad passed away last year. Supposed to get the headstone, and it still hasn't gotten it there. And asked about, and they said they had it in the computer and didn't push the button to order it. And that was last September, and we still don't have a headstone on it.
That sounds like kind of just bad business practices.
Can we do something about it? A refund? Or, because I told them, I said, well, I'll go get one for somewhere else. But he telling me, you're not going to get a refund.
Well, I think your specific situation would be probably best dealt through that mediation program in Columbus, because clearly that's something that they should fix immediately. Katie, you want me to continue like this, or this?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'll get to the script in a second. Yes, ma'am.
One, where are they located at? And two, can they decide to sell Resthaven to whoever and they can do whatever they want with the property?
I think that in any business most business transactions, when you purchase a business, you purchase its problems, you purchase its debts, its contracts, its obligations. So when you sell, say Resthaven or Stonewall sells, there would have to be disclosures as to claims and things of that nature.
But can they sell to a developer, the condo,
To a developer?
yeah.
No, I don't think that's. No. They are in Pennsylvania, I believe. I think they're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
By Philadelphia.
By Philadelphia. Okay. I've been dealing with someone in Pittsburgh, so they might be throughout Pennsylvania. So, anyone else from this side? Yes, sir.
Yeah. You were mentioning about the class action. Okay, well, there's all kinds of Resthaven people, across the country, groups where Stonemore's done damage. Wouldn't it be better if they all got united and went at Stonewall? You would have more people.
Well,
You know what I'm saying? Instead of, because it's easy to fight little battles in different areas with a strategic move. But if you put everyone together as a mass into a case against them,
there would have to be
that
typical.
could be a push.
Right. Well, it would be wonderful to have a nationwide class action. The only issue or concern I have is that this group here at Resthaven we're talking about flooding, we're talking about damage to our grave markers. I don't know if that problem is nationwide, or if I think the issue in Resthaven, flooding, perhaps is to do with this, obviously, lack of drainage, maybe a change in how water is flowing. I mean, you have all those cribs, not cribs, but you know, the vaults down below, the concrete's blocking water. How they don't know how to drain that is they're in the business to figure that out. So unless they're having flooding in different cemeteries across the country, I don't think that would be a viable class action. So, yes, ma'am.
I bought a vault back in 1990 when my mom went to heaven. And I'm still in the process of paying for my urn and my spot. Because I'm still paying Resthaven for, is there any way, I don't know if this is going to come out right, like, to put it like an escrow, and maybe if Resthaven's not getting the money, if a lot of people are in my same situation, it'll maybe
per row. That's $2 million. That's just 100 people. Times that by 1,000, that's $2 billion people. $2 billion. So they're only saying there's only $492,000 in the trust fund. Where's the rest of the money?
Well, that's a very good question, and I don't know if people in AP can do a public records request. I think perhaps that's anyone can do a public records request. And you just need to ask specific questions. Now, if you're involved with any type of action, perhaps I'll do some Captain Mary, I'm going to ask that very good question. Where is the money? How much money has been lost?
Will it attack them personally?
I'm sorry?
Will it attack them personally? Their business planes, their business houses?
No, when I say public records request, I'm talking to the agency in the state of Ohio, because only 8 public government entities have a requirement to respond to public records requests. Stonewall, if the lawsuit was instituted or filed, would have to answer what's called discovery, which would be interrogatories, requests for production of documents, and requests for admissions. They would have to produce documentation if a lawsuit was instituted or filed. So,
How many people are buried at Resthaven?
that's a good question. I don't know.
I tried to figure it out.
900 on final, which means it's well over 9,000.
Yeah,
Over 9,000.
It was like 8,984.
That's on final.
Yeah.
So
You know,
it's
so
well
multiply
over.
that.
The caskets and the burial, opening, closing. I'm talking about the 20,000 all the way up.
Okay. Ma'am, you have questions in the purple? No? Okay. Anyone from this area here? Yes.
Actually, just have a statement first as far as headstones go. Again, after September 2015, I lied, October 2015, 2016 Memorial Day came and went, and I literally had to go to the VFW and get my father's headstone placed. And if it was not for me posting it on my own personal Facebook page and getting people my own age that I went to school with who had served in the service step up to the plate and contact the VFW on Overland Avenue in Lorraine, Ohio, that headstone would still not be there. So just a little FYI, if your parent, aunt, uncle, whoever it may be, deal with the VFW, they will step up to the plate and help you in a heartbeat.
Sir, I have a question over here.
Yes, sir.
I want to ask you this. We have a mayor here. Does the city of Avon bear any responsibility for letting this situation deteriorate? I heard that because
water issue from the edge of their property. And we've been out there to ask them, is there ways that we can, work with them and can, it's city funds, so we have to be careful in terms of that we go on and do any work for them. But we looked at all their exiting sites from where the water leaves that property, and I know people have said there's been the development behind there. That development was in long before that. But each of the exit points where the water leaves that site, it's open and it's flowing. We've offered to even put another catch basin on the end over there along the 83, and said, hey, if you can get the water all that point. They're supposed to be taking cameras going through there and looking in there. It's like, I know, my grandfather's buried there, my grandmother's buried there, my dad is buried there, my uncle is buried there. So it's like all the things that, you may be trying to accuse the city or myself of. We have done everything that we can in terms of the community to do that, and that's why I'm here today. We back what's going on over there, and we're very cognizant of what's going on there. But it's a separate government entity that we deal with. So
what I'm trying to say is this: since Avon is such a thriving and up and coming community, and projected to be 75,000 people in the years to come, the city of Avon can ill afford to have such a black mark in the midst of its presence, its being. That's why that you have got to you have to have maximum participation and help from the people in City Hall if you're going to get any resolution of this problem. If they don't vote,
Just to follow up what the mayor said, I'm also my part-time job. I'm the City of Amherst, Ohio Law Director, and I know that also the City of Avon, whenever developments and projects have been put in place, there's proper engineering. The developers have to prove to the city that they're not going to have a detrimental impact on surrounding areas. And I would just echo what the mayor says, that this is not City of Avon fault or issue. The mayor's here because he supports this group and its efforts to fix this problem with the private company Resthaven and Stonewall. So I will certainly echo that. So any other questions from?
I actually had a question in regards to that. I don't only have, I can't even count how many family members in that place, but I also had purchased a cemetery plot. Actually, I bought two. Once you own it and it's paid in full and you have the paperwork in hand, is it considered, how do I say it? Is it considered a private property? Is it public property? How does that work? Because in 2016, after the headstone was placed of my father's, I was up there, and he is actually buried on the hill toward the back. I guess they call it Memorial Hill. I went to the office due to a group of youngsters who found fit to party behind the upright headstone on Memorial Hill and decided they were going to urinate on that thing. I went to the office in July of 2016 and reported that. And they called the Avon Police Department on me. Because I was making a scene, because nobody wanted to go up and ask the children, and I say children, and I use that term loosely, to leave the property or do anything about it because it was private property. They were busy. Well, excuse me, but if I own that damn place, as far as my two spots, do I not have the right to go to the office and complain and have someone removed off the property? Or why was I asked to leave the property by Avon Police Department?
okay. That's a good question.
And mind you, I have not been back since due to health issues. So I have not been up there the last 3 years and a half to see my parents because of this whole issue.
Yeah, that's something I have to look into. It's a good question about the ownership. I believe you own the individual plots, but the property itself is operated by the private company. So that's something I could look into. So I'm going to go. Oh, you have one more question, sir?
So us as a community, if we was to do something, put our own money forward to it, and made a retaining pond, collected all the water out of the cemetery, will we be able to sue them from that point? Because we put our own profit into it.
I don't know where or how you put a retention basin, a retention pond on their property, so that's good. I mean, a retention pond or a drainage basin is a good idea, but it's something I think that Resthaven and Stonewall would have to do themselves. So.
But they're not doing it.
But they're not doing it, and we own it.
We know
We own our spot.
that's something I'd like to look into, whether or not, what in particular you own. I think you own the vault line of where your loved one was buried. The premises of itself is owned by Stonewall and Resthaven. That's my belief, and that's something I'll look into. I can't definitively say it.
I'll be sure to post the answer to that in the Facebook group.
Okay, when you say you own that spot, well, my husband passed 5 years ago, and I gave him a year to put grass on his grave. And I know this doesn't matter to anybody else, but it does to me, because my husband was very meticulous with his yard. So I felt the least they could do is give him grass. So I let it go a year. They didn't give him grass. Now we're 5 years later. They have never, ever given him grass. It was last spring, a friend of mine, unbeknown to me, wanted to make me happy. His wife sent him out there with grass seed, and dirt and all this for him to plant grass seed on my husband's grave to surprise me that he would have grass. Well, she called me and said, it don't work. She said, they came out there and they asked him what he was doing, and he said, you folks have not given this man grass. He deserves grass. After 4 years, so now we're 5 years, after 4 years, and they told him he had to leave, pick his stuff up and leave because he was not allowed to plant grass there. So you don't own that little spot right there.
Well, and forgive me for misspeaking, you're buying something. Okay. You're buying something, whether or not, like a condominium, you own the inside and not the outside.
Okay, so you don't own the little grass on top.
Again, that's something I'd have to look into.
Yeah.
I know that Resthaven is required to maintain above. And
They don't have to maintain it, they don't have grass there.
Correct. And this goes to, again, maybe a breach of contract. What is their obligation after they bury?
I'm sorry.
Just because they're not, doesn't mean they don't have to. It just means they're not. They're violating.
And then he was involved in all the underwater. So he not only didn't get grass, now he's underwater. And his mother is next to him. She's underwater. Well, she was. I have no idea. I can't go out there.
So to the issue, and this brings up a good point, to the issue of reasonable maintenance. Hold on, folks. To the issue of reasonable maintenance, if there was a lawsuit that was filed, perhaps an expert would have to be retained to tell us on a nationwide standard and basis what is reasonable maintenance. Does that include making sure and ensuring that grass seed is planted on your loved one's plot? That's something that I think an expert would come in and tell us. Common sense tells us yes.
Yes.
Right. But again, as it pertains to, just like a condominium, and I'm just hypothesizing and guessing at this point, you don't necessarily have control of the outside of your condo. The inside, yes. Outside, no. And perhaps the same rules apply in this circumstance. So, well, I'm going to try to get some of these other people. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I have a question. Where does abuse of a corpse end? According to Ohio law 2927.01, abuse of a corpse. No person except as authorized by law shall treat a human corpse in a way that the person knows would outrage reasonable family sensibilities. No person except authorized by law shall treat a human corpse in a way that would outrage reasonable community sensibilities. Whoever violates Division A of this section is guilty of abuse of a corpse, a misdemeanor in the second degree. Whoever violates Division B of this section is guilty of gross abuse of a corpse, a felony in the fifth degree.
not saying that if it were, we would have to disinter somebody to determine whether or not their remains are truly underwater.
Okay.
So just because the surface is having flooding does not necessarily mean that the vaults are leaking.
How waterproof are the vaults?
That the vaults, we don't know. Those are things we have to, someone would have to investigate that.
I mean, it's gonna cost $10,000 to open up a vault.
I don't know that. I don't know that to be the case. Yes. Okay. Ma'am.
I have that room. And I want to assure you that the vaults are fine. This was 2005. I was on the front page of the newspaper. I sloshed through my mom's grave to put flowers on the grave. I was so disgusted I called the Chronicle. They came out with a good story. My mom and my dad and my niece are buried together. We had 9 family plots there. 3 were in use. When my brother-in-law, who owns an excavating business, was so disgusted the next day after this came out in the paper, he went to the office and he threatened to dig up the graves because he has equipment. And he threatened Resthaven, I will come and I will dig up the graves. They were so upset and knew that he would do it. It took us until December. I just looked at our plots. We had to go through court. We had to have it changed. They took our 9, my mom and dad, we had to have their sons and my niece, which is very, very hard to have to exhumed. We had our funeral director, Dave Dickin, had to be there when they were exhumed. Because they were in vaults and we were moved up into the hill where they just slide in and we don't need a concrete vault anymore, he was there to check to make sure there was no damage to the coffins. My dad's been there since 1995, my mother 2000, and my niece 2005. We were in an area where it was flooded constantly. And so I do want to assure you, hopefully that gives some comfort to you, that the concrete vaults were intact. We didn't even believe Resthaven when they told us, and so afterwards, my brother and sister went to the cemetery and found the concrete vaults where they had thrown them away so that they could see themselves that there was no damage to their vaults and there was no water in the vaults. And this is one of the worst areas where my parents were buried. So I'm saying to you, you can't go tell them that you're going to take them up because I think this was 5 years ago. I don't know who owned the cemetery at that time, but they did take our 9 plots and my mom and dad and niece and they moved them all. It had to go through court. We had to have them changed. We had to sign, notarize everything again. And they are now in a safe place. I'm here because I support you, because I know how painful it is. And hopefully, maybe just knowing that your loved ones maybe are in water on the top, that they're safe on the bottom. They're safe underneath, as far as we could tell, that there was no damage to the coffins. So this was in 2000.
Yes, ma'am, back there.
In answer to the question about do you own the plot, although your paperwork says it's a deed, in the pamphlet that we got from the Department of Commerce, there's a quote on the back, or a thing on the back that says, you do not own the, let's see, it says, when you purchase a burial plot or grave, you are purchasing the right to be buried. There, not the actual ground. So you don't own the ground. The condo analogy is about it. Right. You own the right to be buried there. You do not own that ground. Stonewall.
Well, then how come, wait a second. Then how come when I filed for disability and Social Security has told me it is a proper fee. You have too much money. Guess what? I gotta sell them damn things. Who do you think I'm gonna sell them to now?
Well, I think it's still a deed and there's value to it itself. That might be the issue there. But you had a question.
They said it's property. Sell it.
It is property.
Okay,
You've
well,
already bought your.
all right,
And I went through the same thing. You've already bought your area. But what they're saying is if you own it, you have to sell that now in order to get it.
Who am I gonna sell it to?
Nobody.
Okay.
Ma'am, you have a question?
Yeah, I want to go back just a little bit to filing the complaints with the Commission Board in the state in Columbus. Do you think it's more beneficial to group one another to go and file these complaints in a group according to their damages or their complaints?
Well,
separately?
okay. Well, good question. It comes down to, you certainly want to have uniformity with your complaints, unless you have specific individuals.
Just because there's so many variables.
Right.
And because I believe that the voices in numbers is greater impact. Yeah.
It is, but I hear from.
But in what way is best? That's what I need.
A couple of things. I think Katie had mentioned that Stonewall has to respond to each individual.
Right. But so what impact would be greater? Going individually? I don't think so.
In my personal opinion, and this is my personal opinion, because I have been to the commission hearings.
Right.
It is far greater impact to force them to respond to 100 complaints.
Exactly.
And to force the commission to individually look at 100
Okay, so
complaints
that's a
instead of
suggestion I have.
100 people.
That's a suggestion I have as part of the next part of this meeting that we could possibly address. That how could we group the people who have the similar complaints to be addressing the complaint commission at the state level?
So I want to make sure I'm hearing what you're saying. So everybody whose complaint is the flooding would file one.
Yeah, maybe the broken headstones.
And then the broken headstones
I mean,
would be.
or maybe they're part of two groups. But I mean, honestly, how should it work out best
There
to
should be
our
some,
benefit?
right. There should be uniformity in
There should be
in
some
those types of complaints, but each
structure.
individual.
Yeah, I just want to know what the structure should
And
be.
how the commission works is they are charged with each complaint. So if you as an individual complain about your specific grave site, they have to address your specific grave site. So my suggestion would be individually, everyone sends in their complaint about their individual, and then as a group could file a group complaint.
With a resolution.
Yes.
I mean, are they held to?
They
Ohio
have
law?
no legal authority to force Stonewall to do anything. They can force them to appear.
But they don't have to. They can say that we have accomplished what you asked for, but for Stonewall to actually deliver is a whole different ballgame.
You are exactly right.
You could get any kind of ruling,
yes,
but you could never
There's
see
no
that
legal authority to follow
resolved.
through on it. But the other thing that filing so many complaints is they also have the authority to ask the Attorney General to step in and take a look at things.
Okay.
If we pile on 100 complaints, it sends a very loud message to the
That's the
commission
thing that I
that
think
perhaps escalating it to that level might be a little more appropriate.
Okay, that's a suggestion that I would like to be
That's a very good suggestion.
I think that's a great idea.
Patty has been in front of the commission for several years with her complaints, so she can probably help.
We did that. 2015, we went and I lost my son. And I'm so sorry. Thank you. And so he was also in the military. But I would have never did it. We bought plots 20 years ago.
Same here.
And it was beautiful. You know?
Yes.
I didn't know nothing.
Well, no,
Until
we're
after
young
we
and we're
started
trying to
growing.
be responsible.
And then we came to visit them. When the spring came, then we got concerned because I'm like, this ain't normal. And then finally, I filed in 2015. We went to Columbus, and they said that they would take care of the drainage. And so I got it in writing and everything. And then as time went on, what they did was actually what we did was we came in, put dirt down and grassy, not to where it would flood anybody else's grave around.
Yeah.
And they did, after we went in, Chrissy was one of the managers at the time.
I remember her.
Yeah, she came out with the maintenance guy. Chrissy. But they said that they're not, Stonewall won't give you no money to maintain them. But they did lift my son's headstone. And here, last year, everything started seeping in. You need drainage. Lifted it and dirt there. It's not going to work. Yeah. So when we went in, we brought a bunch of, we went in again in November, and we bought a bunch of pictures from other people's areas, their grave sites that was in their watercraft, and they didn't want to hear it. We came here to represent your son, to talk about it, you know. And with us, we're going back to June 13th, and we had the auditor come out from Columbus. We met him a couple months ago. We showed him where my son lived, and of course, I knew, I told him, I go, look, it's raining, so we canceled it, because I knew that was going to be the reason why it was the way it was. So it got, about a few weeks later, he came out, and we met him there, and he looked around, and he said, oh, this ain't where they said the drainage was. They put it up there in the front. And I'm like, oh my, they didn't even know where it was. And so he said, this is unacceptable. But we go back June 13th to file, and I'm for sure going to file a suit with you, whether it's a class action, which, buddy, you would think it has to be class action, because if I got back what I laid my son the money, what good is that going to do with me? I want drainage done. I don't want no money. I want my son to lay to rest in peace. I want to be able to go visit him without going through mud puddles. And his is nothing compared to the people around him. There's older people there that can't bring their own dirt in like we can.
I don't think anybody wants money.
No.
I think they just want.
For all your hard work.
They want it fixed.
Because I don't think he was going to make any money off it. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the difference.
But I thank you that you're willing to stand up and help us.
Well, he's just advising.
We just want to honor our loved ones, you know.
We're here to look at this and do whatever we can. That's what we're here to do. Yes, ma'am, you've been very patient.
I have a question about the contracts that you were talking about, because my mom bought her contract before Stonelarp.
With the bad.
Are we third party?
You may be a third-party beneficiary to the contract, yeah.
So then my question is, then you said the Stonelarp contract
understood that we first have to go to the commission.
Yes.
So if our contract isn't with, our parents' contract isn't with Stonemore, then we would still file a complaint.
I think you
but
do.
Are we still obligated to file a complaint?
If you're not under contract, no, but you should.
Oh, yeah.
You definitely should.
Plan on it.
Yeah, yes.
Before we take the next question, we're only going to take one or two more, I think. To save some time, this is part of the next part of the meeting. If you are interested in legal action, being part of a committee that looks into what the options are for legal action, I'm going to pass a sheet around, multiple sheets around. Please sign with the information on here so that we can get you anything we find out and maybe plan a meeting for that specifically, okay?
Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
This is our first time here. Y'all make me feel like I'm in the middle of a Stephen King novel. My question, we fortunately are not there yet, we're still here. But I will say that we were definitely high pressure. And I've been told about the markers as we purchased through them. But we are still paying on these plots. Is there a way? I know you talked about the escrow account. Can we just stop paying and be done? Say, not interested.
I guess if you stop paying, you know there's a potential breach of contract on your part.
All right, so we could just pay them off and never go there?
Well, I mean, you know, it's up to Resthaven whether or not they want to pursue you. You have, maybe you could negotiate this a walk away, or perhaps you could sell. A walk away, just like a mortgage, or you walk away from your obligation. That's something that you may be able to negotiate. Perhaps you could sell the plot.
Like everybody else says.
Yeah, right.
We knew nothing about any of this until all of a sudden one day
Whether or not you want to stop payment on your contract is totally up to you. It's not advisable from a lawyer's perspective because it's a breach of contract.
Okay.
So.
And then, one thing I don't understand, why cannot just go to the Attorney General?
There's nothing that says you can't do that. Now, whether or not the Attorney General will act is a different story altogether.
No, I don't mean us individually.
Yeah. Collectively.
Why does it have to go to this? I'm not asking.
Because the statute requires, it doesn't require, the contracts require that you have for Resthaven and Stonemore require you to at least make an attempt to resolve it through that mediation process before you file any legal action. But that doesn't preclude you from complaining to anyone in Columbus, any state agency, about what's going on. You could do that at any time.
And we did file with the Attorney General, and they told us to go to the Ohio side. That's the process. We have to go there.
What Katie was saying is on the money. Every one of us has to file that complaint and show up to Columbus. Make them come. They will come because they have to come. You don't have to. Whether it's in a group or whether it's individually, they are going to answer to you because it's going to start in emails, and they're going to have to answer to it. And eventually, they're going to set up an appointment with you, and you will get your opportunity to speak to them. So everybody here and anybody that signed that paper and left, they all need to know that you have to file a complaint, you have to go to Columbus, you have to do it, and class action is something I think we ought to do right here. We have this right here. You already said there's the criteria for that.
That's correct. That's something that we're going to look into and see if it's a viable option for you.
All right, and on that note, I'm sure Mr. Pecora would stick around and maybe take one or two questions from people afterwards, but it's getting late. We only have the hall till 9 o'clock. So I would like to keep moving into the part of the meeting that I consider to be, as I said, the most important. And thank you for that, because that is 100% the truth.
Yeah.
I am fighting so hard to get information, ways for you guys to fight back, avenues that you can take legally, that you can take with your elected officials. I can only do so much as an individual myself. You guys have to take action, and I cannot stress enough that 100 complaints in front of this commission is mind-boggling. That is going to be taken very seriously. They take each and every complaint very seriously. It is a legal process. Stonewall has to show up, and they have to present their case. This is your chance to make a difference. It's your chance to get face-to-face with someone from Stonewall. And let me tell you, they need that face-to-face.
And can I just say, this is just a few of us. When I first joined her Facebook status, or her Facebook page, I think it was like 389.
We have almost 1,100 in the group now.
I mean, think about it. This is just us. Think about the people who are on the people who are on our Facebook page who follow us and keep saying, check on my father, check on my brother, check on my son. I've made 3 trips up there for people who has requested on her page to check on someone. They've given me specific directions, have called me via Facebook.
Well, there's 1,100 people in the group, so that tells you right there. For each and every one of those people, they've told at least 10 more.
Exactly.
There's 10,000 people or more with an interest. There's 9,000 people buried at Resthaven. There's 9,000 families with an interest in what happens here. So, you wanted to...
So do we have a plan on getting it fixed?
There is no plan on getting it fixed. I did neglect, because I get nervous, to read the statement that I was given by Mr. Ulmer, who I met face-to-face with last week, who's the Southeast Division president of Stonewall. This is, I specifically asked him during our meeting for a statement that I could read to this group. This is what he said. It was directed at me, not the group. I wanted to reach out to you per the commitment I made to you during our meeting. As discussed, Stonewall has engaged with an engineering firm to evaluate the water issues at Resthaven. At this time, the firm has been on site at Resthaven on multiple occasions as part of their assessment process. We do not have a concrete date of completion from the engineering firm as of yet. Once we do, I will let you know that they are complete and what the next steps are. I hope you understand that we are committed to some form of remedy to this issue. Until we know more, we simply cannot attach a timeline to it as of it. I'm not sure what that's supposed to mean. I will update you via email in the next 30 days or sooner if we receive the assessment from the engineering firm. So that has been their answer for 5 years. So it's more of the same.
Has anybody seen any contracts for an engineering firm to actually even show up to do the work? Like, is there a contract on file anywhere between Stonewall and this engineering firm?
You bring up an interesting question, because they've been asked multiple times by multiple people, including me, via email. Who is the engineering firm? He told me they have a non-disclosure agreement with the engineering firm. Because the last time that this happened at one of their cemeteries, the public bombarded the engineering firm with phone calls and telling them how to do their job and those kind of things, that the engineering firm actually quit. That is what it said. Yes, sir.
Have a possible solution, since we've been through everything else. Part of this was supposed to be, let's talk about some possible solutions.
Yes.
Now, I know Avon is a great community, and I know Brian.
Excuse me, can you
Other
speak
for a long
up a little
time.
louder? Can you get up?
Avon is a great community. I've known this mayor for a long time, long before he was a mayor, back when he was a businessman. Actually, our fathers worked together in Goodwood. Avon is a great community. They are really trying to get things done. However, and I'm going to ask this, and it's a preface to something. How many people here actually live in Avon? Okay, few of you. They have property maintenance laws in Avon. And I think maybe in Mr. Pecora and Mr. Jensen, and I believe, isn't there a council person here from Avon? If you don't want to out yourself, there you go. Maybe if you guys could look into maybe strengthening a law that's wrapped around the cemetery. I know the Avon Cemetery is gorgeous. It still stays gorgeous.
Yeah.
I know that St. Mary's stays gorgeous. But Resthaven seems to be, it's just a moneymaker for somebody. Is there a way that maybe you could sponsor and get with your law director, and I don't know if this is legal or not, that you could start working towards something and maybe with the mayor and get some type of property maintenance code that you can actually start leaning on them going forward, that a certain amount of things have to be done, their culverts have to be kept a certain way, the aesthetic pleasingness of the community itself. We talked about, one of the things I thought, there's been a lot of sprawl in that area in the runoff, and as Mayor Jensen told everybody earlier, that they have gone over and checked. They have tried to put in culverts. They've asked them where they want them. They'll put them in as long as it's on the city property to help with their drainage. I think maybe if the city of Avon could help us, and thank you for being here, and I don't know how many council people you have on your council, if you guys could help us by going in a way of maybe coming up with a property maintenance code that has some teeth, that will force them to move forward, or else, when they go to sell, they just can't dump it on somebody else. It's going to have to be, the problems are going to have to be fixed, because the truth is, and you may even call the county health department, that's a lot of standing water. And I'm sure your residents are not going to like what happens in standing water come in the middle of July. So maybe, just maybe, and I don't mean to put it on you since you're the only one here, but maybe you could get with your mayor and you guys work together and come up with maybe a plan to help us out and get us at least started. Like everybody, nobody's in here for any money. People are just concerned that when they're driving over these wet internments, tombs, whatever you want to call them, vaults, that things aren't being crushed, that things aren't being let in, that they're not damaging, they're actually damaging the vault. I appreciate what you said earlier, but there's a lot of places out there that they stick trucks and get them stuck. And you can't tell me that the pressure of that truck in that ground, they're really only 5 feet down, 4 feet down. You can't tell me if it's that saturated that weight of that truck can't do something. And I don't know if you guys can or you can't, but I think it might be a good starting point to maybe help us out. I realize not everybody in this room is your constituent, but I appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
I really appreciate those words. You're right. I'm one of 7 that is a representative of Avon City Council, and I appreciate our mayor being here. As far as the city of Avon is concerned, he said it well, in that we're here because we have an interest in helping you. He shared how his own family was buried at Resthaven. We buried my father last month. So when we talk about vaults and when we talk about concerning for our loved ones, it really hits home. I've been listening. I've been taking notes. So to your points about what can we do, some of the questions that I have to continue to look forward to answers. And Katie, you've done a great job of bringing this stuff together. Even if you're not from Avon or you maybe aren't living here, your loved ones are eternally resting here. And we have an obligation and a responsibility to help you feel comfortable with that resting place. Some of the questions I've written down, and you've talked about some of them, but I want to know, what does a fix mean? We've talked about we want to fix this. I'd like to know specifically in bullet points, what does that mean? And I would encourage your group to continue to discuss those points. And then in that fix, you mentioned, what would be an official estimate to make that fix a reality? We want to know some dollar amounts, at least to be able to talk to Stonemore about that. We talked about the engineering report. What is that some form of remedy? and how do we further conversations about having that. And then I listened to you as well, and I just wondered, because I just bought a vault as well. I want to know, are those vaults underwater, and what would be an independent analysis of that to get you that peace of mind, that yes or that no? If you had that peace of mind, would that help?
Yes.
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 Okay. And if the aesthetics looked better, would that help?
Yes.
Would it help your heart if you didn't get mud on your shoes?
I did discuss at one point in time when I met with the mayor.
Yeah.
We discussed other cemeteries and other places have done things like issued citations for nuisance. The grass is too high, they issue them citation after citation to get them to cut the grass. They declare it a nuisance and that kind of thing. In our specific circumstance, they do keep the grass cut for the most part to a level where that wouldn't be an appropriate thing. The standing water is absolutely an issue that I think is a health hazard.
Exactly.
Some members of our group have talked about trying to get an environmental company to test that water for I don't even want to think about it, or things that I don't want to think about. So we'll see where that goes. But I want to let you guys know that I will be working closely with the mayor and with the city council to try to find every avenue that we can legally, through legislation, through things passed through the city. It's been being talked about, it will continue to be talked about, and I will continue to report about it in the Facebook group. Some of the things that need to be decided are, what do we consider a fix? So I would like each of you over the next few days to write down what you would consider to be a fix, what you would be consider to be a solution to this problem. One of the things that we're working on, we've lost a lot of people because we've run pretty late, is I want to move forward into action. We have to take this group and move it forward into action. So, because we're running short on time, I'm going to throw out the ideas that are in front of me right now. Some of them are things you've put out in the group. We're going to get a petition started. We need to get as many signatures on this petition as we can. It is going to be a petition that asks everyone from the governor of this state down to the Avon City Council to get involved in this situation. We need their help. We need them to start making laws that prevent this from happening, making laws that help us come up with a solution to this. So, that's going to be the first part. If you're interested in helping me on a legislative committee, we have papers here. Maybe one of the girls will hand those around as well. Secondly, and this I think is the most important, we need to get some grassroots efforts going. We need to make them see us as a community. I am planning what I am going to nicely call Community Visitation Day at Resthaven. That day is June 2nd, so please write that down, June 2nd at 2 p.m. This entire community is going to visit Resthaven. I would like to actively encourage you on your visit to bring a sign. That you want to carry, a sign you might want to leave on your loved one's grave, a sign that you might want to leave in the oval around the front of Resthaven. That would be a really nice public statement. Personally, I think my sign is going to say, my parents deserve better than this. And that's what I'm going to put on their gravestone. You can write whatever you want and bring whatever sign you want, but let's as a community get out there and make it known that this is not acceptable anymore. So mark your calendars, June 2nd, 2 p.m. I'm going to put it in the Facebook group and we'll go into details more on the Facebook group.
I don't know.
Have to sneak and talk, but they will tell you you're not allowed to.
But it won't grow because it's too water, it's too much water. Yeah, it's not.
So they, the tire tracks that they made when they, got here, near my mom's place, nobody stopped us. They drove around in their trucks and looked at us 3 or 4 times.
I'm gonna be honest. The reason I planned a Sunday, there's no one in the office. I also want to make sure that we're not interfering with anybody's interment. That would not be appropriate. So, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, June 2nd, please make a sign, bring it, and show up. Bring your family, bring your friends. Let's see a few hundred people visiting Resthaven on June 2nd. They can kick us out. Yes, they can.
What time, and should we bring backhoes just for fun?
Probably not, but
Just for fun. I know, like a parade.
you can legally bring whatever you want. Well, it's kind of getting, but yeah, they'll see it in the Facebook group too. Let me get through the rest of this because there's a lot of people who are there. The rest of the plan of action, I think we're going to wait on that a little bit because we've got enough right now on our plates right now. I want everybody to fill out those complaint forms. I want you to show up on June 2nd. I want you to tell me what you think the fix to the problem is. If you are interested in legal action, finding out about legal action, please sign those papers. Those people will probably meet separately. Those people who are interested in that avenue, and we'll take it from there. Those are the things that are going to move us forward into taking action. So,
How do we contact you on Facebook? I only found out about this meeting because of Channel 5 News.
Oh, on the news.
Yeah.
Thank you, by the way, eternally grateful to the media for sharing our story. Mr. Bruce Walton from the Chronicles carried this story from the beginning. Channel 3, Channel 5, Channel 19. Channel 8 is the only one I'm not sure because I haven't heard from them. They have all gone above and beyond to carry the story to try to help us get this resolved. So I'm very grateful to them. You can contact me. My Facebook page is a little bit locked down because I've been told to be very careful. These aren't nice people. So I'm trying to be a little bit careful with that. The group is called on Facebook. You can look it up. It's a closed group, but you can ask to join it. It's called Resthaven Cemetery. That is where we post the majority of the information that comes out. It's called Resthaven Cemetery. I want to give you all, if anybody's interested in my email address, it's the first initial of my name, K, and my last name, which is HILDEBRAND, the number's 329@hotmail.com. Send me what you think the fix to this solution is. Send me anything that you think is relevant. That's a really great way to get a hold of me, and I will keep everything posted in the Facebook group.
I just have a question because I hear a lot about, textbooks that are cracked in the grades, the flooding, but my experience is they actually use my son's headstone from where he was buried at.
Yes.
And I just want to know, is there more that have that problem with that? Because they told me that it's just the maintenance records that they first
Yours is not the first complaint about maintenance records. There are other complaints about maintenance records. So I will try to come up with specifics for you and let you know. But yours is not the first. I actually have found news stories about Resthaven and other people's issue with maintenance records. So we'll get together and we'll talk about it. So, anybody else before we go? Anybody?
Don't forget to put some money in that bucket.
Yes, please help me out because it's a few $100s out of my pocket to pay for the room. So if you can help me out, please. Thank you all.